Hey everyone, I'm Adrian Battle Marston, and this is another episode of TU Stories. On today's episode, we look to explore the nuanced experience that many people have when they move to the United States for the very first time, and how that experience, in many ways, shapes their career path. Joining with us today, we have Towson's very own Atika Syed. Atika is the APIMEDA coordinator in the Center for Student Diversity. And APAMIDA is an acronym, for those of you that don't know, as the Asian Pacific Islander Middle Eastern Desi American Student Development Program. And the CSD's goal with the APAMIDA development program is to provide support, activities, creating dialogue and awareness around issues that pertain to this particular demographic. Atika, it's good to have you.
Thank you, Adrian. It's great to be here.
So, one of the first questions that we like to ask all of our guests here on our podcast is a very simple question. And so, for today's episode, we pose that question to you, Atika. Who is Atika Syed?
To answer that question simply, I'm Atika Syed. I am a Muslim immigrant woman of color from Pakistan, moved to the United States around 12 years ago. I'm a mother. I am an activist. And those are just a few of my different identities that I hold very dear to me. And currently, I'm serving as the coordinator for Asian, Pacific Islander, Middle Eastern, and Desi American students at Towson University, and I work over in the Center for Student Diversity.
Mm-hmm. So the next question that I would really want to learn more about is, does the United States feel like home for you? I know you mentioned that you've been here for a few years. What was that transition like for you as an individual and for your family? Because I can imagine it's not as simple as people make it out to be, especially for the social identities that you hold.
So, to be honest, initially, that transition was extremely difficult. More so because when I moved here with my family, I had two kids. One of the two kids was just starting middle school. So for her, it was a huge cultural shock. And having left everyone she loved and everything she was familiar with behind was something that at her age, it was difficult to process. So I had to go through the process with her, trying to learn how to process it myself as well. And then, in that duration, I had to address my loneliness as well because I did not have any support system to lean on. We moved to a very small town of Pennsylvania, and it took a lot of time and effort to find my community there, and in that time, a lot of things kept happening, and it was very difficult to pace myself with all the changes that were occurring, trying to find a place to live, moving, and my daughter starting her school, having issues with the school, bullying, and whatnot, and then taking care of a 1-year-old, and all of those things. Thinking about my parents that I had left behind, and just the dealing with the fear of the unknown, what the future held, and what would my position be in this country, whether or not I would find a sense of belonging in the country. So, so it has been a long journey. I met great people along the way. There have been and continue to be a lot of obstacles as well. But to answer your question, Adrian, when I moved here, there was one thought that occurred to me, and that was it's not just me embracing this country, but it's the country embracing me as well. And with that positive thought, I tried to find and hold on to all the positive influences in my life. Trying my best to weed out all the negative from my life and the lives of my kids. Again, it has not been easy, and it continues to be an effort, a learning process. But everywhere I have been, along with all the hurdles in my path, I have found my people in this country, and that is what has helped me sustain. So, yes, to a great extent, I have made America my home, but that does not mean that I have abandoned the thought of my birthplace. I still miss Pakistan. I still yearn to go back every now and then. And basically, it's sometimes it feels like I'm riding in two boats at the same time, if you know what I mean. But there is so much that I have gained in this country, so much that I have learned, and so many positive things that I have acquired after moving here. So, and all those things are extremely dear to me.
Thank you for sharing that, Atika. And if you're comfortable, I'd really love to explore some of the things that you mentioned here as you sort of shared your story. And it's really about seeing the United States from a perspective that is not of our own. One of the things that I don't know if everyone has really wrestled with is how the Muslim community processed and experienced 9/11. And you have sort of shared what that was like for you to some degree, but I'd love to see if you can share that with our listeners. How did you respond to that? And what was it like for you and your daughter to navigate through this tragedy while holding an identity that is in many ways placed on a spotlight?
Yeah, so post 9/11, life has certainly changed drastically for the Muslim community living in the United States. And not many people know, but I actually lived in the US for a couple of years before moving back to Pakistan. But that was back in 97, 98, when my husband was doing his fellowship from University of Baltimore, Maryland. No, University of Maryland, Baltimore. I'm sorry. But yeah, got confused. But yes, so we lived in Pikesville for a couple of years. I felt lonely socially, but I never felt insecure. I never felt that I was unsafe or that we were looked upon as suspicious. However, a lot has changed since then, since 9/11. When we moved here in 2010 with both our kids, the first issue that my daughter faced at school, I mean, like I said, she had just started middle school. So starting from 6th grade, she was being bullied for who she was by some of her classmates. Things were said to her that were extremely hurtful, that she was not accustomed to, that we were not accustomed to. For example, her classmates asking her if she was carrying a bomb in her backpack, or, taking a towel, wrapping it around their head, and pretending to be the Taliban, dancing in front of her, saying, looking at her, pointing at her, and saying, "The Taliban are here. They're going to chop our heads off. Run for your lives," and many other things like that. So it was very painful, and because we had not faced anything like that in our home country, we were not equipped to deal with it as well. We did not have the knowledge or the tools to address the problem the way it needed to be addressed. So, after the first few times that my daughter came home crying or angry, lashing out, I started to think about what I could do to help her and to create the kind of awareness that was needed about people like us, so that it would also serve as a tool for us to also process it. A lot of people think that education and awareness is always directed toward someone else. When you're on the giving end, it's always someone else on the receiving end. But it works both ways. At least in my case, through educating people about Islam and Muslims in Pakistan, I was also learning a lot. And it also helped me deal with the pain. I was able to process it a lot easily. So, that is when I decided to actually do something constructive with that pain. And then in the process, my children would also learn how to cope with that. And being unresponsive or ignoring if something like that happens is not the answer. A lot of times, Muslims living in the US or in the West in general are told to just, keep their heads down. And if there are any racial slurs, Islamophobic slurs hurled their way, they should just, ignore all that and continue working the way they, because that's what, these things happen and they'll continue to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. But that's not true. I have found education and awareness to be the most empowering tool. And I have seen the change it created not only in the external world, but also in my internal world. Because when I was struggling with how to respond to these instances of bullying at my daughter's school, and I couldn't figure that out, I was not able to help her, and that was affecting my relationship with her as well. For the longest time, our relationship was extremely strained, and she blamed us, both her parents, for taking her out of her home country, leaving her loved ones behind, and bringing her to a place where she thought her life would get better. But she felt that wasn't the case. So in order for me to bridge that gap, I had to learn as well how to address the issue. So that awareness and that education helped both of us. And through that, I met so many people who had a lot of questions. Some questions I was asked repeatedly. To this day, I'm asked those questions, and I'm more than happy to answer those questions. If I'm able to educate even one person, that single person can take that message and spread it around to more people. That's how I think. So again, that has always been my guiding light. And, that's not to say that there are moments when I feel tired and I feel angry enough to just throw in the towel and say, you know what? It's not on me. Why? Why should we carry this invisible tax, this invisible burden on our shoulders? And it's normal and natural to feel that way. But, then I realized that, after I'm done venting, after I'm done getting angry, I still want to do it. I get up and start doing it again. And so far, I haven't, I don't feel tired enough to stop. And I hope that continues to be the case.
So, fast forwarding a bit to 2022, you accept the APIMEDA coordinator position here at Towson University. And so, for the people that may not be aware, what is APAMIDA? I know we have elaborated on the acronym earlier in the episode, but perhaps we can spend a bit more time unpacking what it is, who it is looking to serve, and why this position, in your eyes, is an important addition to Towson University.
Yes. So the acronym is APIMEDA. It's APIMEDA. It's a mouthful, but it stands for Asian, Pacific Islander, Middle Eastern, Desi American. Desi is a colloquial term that people from South Asia, namely India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, use to define themselves, how we address each other as. So, but it has been adopted apparently in quite a few institutions now. Basically, for me, anything pertaining to diversity, equity, and inclusion is where I wanted to find my niche in, because that is where my passion lies. That is where I am at my most, that is where I'm most productive. And that is where I can, I believe, have any kind of an influence. Again, finding that niche has been a long journey. Through the process, I worked in positions which were not necessarily related to diversity, more geared towards social work. But I kept looking, and eventually I found it at Towson to a great extent. And I honestly love my job here. I love working with students. I love planning events and organizing events for them, talking to them, getting their input, getting feedback from them. It energizes me to no end. And it always surprises me. It doesn't shock me, but it surprises me to hear how much they have to contribute if given that opportunity, if given the right direction. They know very well what it is they want. They just need support. They just need help from someone in that position to provide the resources to them. So they're very aware in that regard. And for me, representing APIMEDA students, I think is very, very important, because oftentimes these are the groups that are overlooked to a certain extent in educational institutions. And a lot of times conversations in the US, whether it's an educational institution or not, conversations in the US are oftentimes divided in the black and white binary, So APIMEDA students, APIMEDA people continue to search for their place in those conversations. And it's extremely important for young people, students particularly, to find that place, which is where that sense of belonging stems from. So there's not a whole lot, to be honest, that I have to do. I just need to be that person that they can come to if they want their voice to be amplified. I'm just that middleman, or whatever you want to call that, for the lack of a better word. But yeah, I'm just that resource. And the way I see I view it very personally also, because when I went back to school in Pennsylvania, I looked for that person on campus and I didn't find that person at Penn State. And I went through a lot of problems. My professors supported me. I had friends there, but there was always something lacking in the level of understanding, and so if I had someone from a similar cultural or religious background, that would go a long way for me. At that point, I needed someone with that level of understanding, and I couldn't find that someone on my campus. And then when my daughter started going to college, she started facing the same issue. And she would often talk to me about that. And she would always tell me, I'm there for classes and everything, but after that, I don't have that sense of belonging. I don't feel like this is where I want to be outside of classes. I do not see myself anywhere. So when this position was offered to me, I already had a job, but my daughter was so excited, and she insisted that I accept this job, because she said to me, now you have a chance to be that someone that you used to crave and that I used to crave. And please, whatever challenges you face, don't give up, because you have no idea how much your students need someone like that. And even if they don't express their gratitude in words, trust me, it's there. That when they come to you, when they trust you, that is when they're expressing their gratitude. And I think in the short time that I've been here, I have cultivated a very good relationship with a lot of these students. And I am extremely grateful for that and feel blessed.
One of the final questions that we like to ask our interviewees is to provide a little bit more scope and understanding for our listeners. So we'd like to propose this question to you, Atika. Atika, what is your why?
To be honest, everything that I have spoken about so far is what put me on this journey. And I have been an activist for a very long time. I, have been out on the streets protesting, marching in Pennsylvania. That is one kind of activism. That is one kind of social justice. But for me, anything pertaining to diversity, equity, and inclusion, something that the CSD is a part of through the Office of Inclusion and Institutional Equity. I think that's what we're doing at the Center for Student Diversity, and I believe it's one pathway to social justice in a certain way, and it could be a roundabout way, but it is one of the ways. And I think any part that I can play to make that journey easier for the younger generations, I think would make me feel useful. I want to do something. I want to work, in a position, in a job that makes me feel useful. It could, in all honesty, I could go for any other field, where there would be more money or I don't know, other benefits. But at the end of the day, when I go to bed, and I think about how useful I have been and I come up short, I don't think I would be happy. I don't think that would satisfy me. So when I go to bed every night, I look forward to waking up the next morning, coming to work, and planning what to do next with the students, how to work with them. Because honestly, college campus is the best place. It's so dynamic, and the generational differences that exist help everyone so much to learn about each other, to learn about how fluid the culture is and how to adapt. And that is primarily what I love about working in a higher ed institution, which is my first experience. But I'm loving it so far.
Atika, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Adrian. It was a sneak peek into my life, but thank you for providing me with the opportunity to share it with you.
Thanks again for listening to this episode. If you'd like to learn more about other conversations that we have with other people on our campus, feel free to like and subscribe to this channel, and be on the lookout for TU Today, because we'll be posting when each episode will be premiering on our channel as well. Thanks again, everyone. Take care.